the guys in the Amazon that do a thing called hape. And hape is a tobacco rustica, I think is the actual tobacco, but it's a much stronger tobacco than we have here. And they grind it down and then they blow it using a thing called a caripe. They blow it into their nostrils, and they do that, 18 to 20 something times. And it causes this kind of expansive state where they see into the future and they see where they're going to hunt the following day. And then they bring that information back and they say, okay, tomorrow we're going to hunt at this particular place. And the ethnobotanist who was down there, kind of checking this out 20, 30 years ago, thought that was absolute BS. It was just like, that's bullshit. That can't possibly happen. And then he did it. And in his book, he wrote about how you don't have to believe it, but I will tell you firsthand that this is what I experienced. And he described, seeing the hunt the following day and exactly where these animals were going to be jumping over a hollowed out log in the river. And then they said, okay, you lead us. And he brought them there, and it played out exactly as it happened in his vision. And so to me, that tells me there are a couple of different possibilities, right? One is that we are definitely temporally gated and we're kind of holding things at bay in terms of our perception. And two, there's a very high likelihood that not only are you looking at the future sort of, but you're more likely, I would think, you're probably looking at a probabilistic outcome. And when you look at that future, there's an interaction, and you may or may not collapse the waveform. So you go from something where there's kind of a Heisenberg uncertainty principle at play to where you sort of crush it using Schrodinger's equations and you collapse the waveform. So you're actually pinching it down on one specific reality. And then over the next series of a day or so, that reality manifests. I don't actually know which way that's playing, but more likely than not, based on what we're told, it's one of those things. And that is very strange, but it doesn't mean it's any less real. It just means we got a lot more work to do, And so that's I love this stuff because this is where I get to play and try and figure out, like, okay, well, how do we take that and use it to help people in some way, shape, or form? I mean, other than, and I can't tell you how many people in discussing this kind of concept of temporal gating, literally the probably number one thing I hear is, well, can you do lottery numbers? which is hilarious to me because I always kind of think, I think you might be missing the point.
Yeah, exactly. It's like trying to figure out how to cheat at Monopoly or something so you could get all the hotels.
Right.
Like,
right. Exactly.
You lost the plot there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You need to get back on the plot.
Yeah. So many things popped for me while you were talking about all this. One is that I learned this, I can't remember from whom, but the present moment that we witness is actually in the past. And I think it was maybe channeled from Sam the Illusionist, who I interviewed on this podcast. He's got a big following, I don't know, 100,000 easily subscribers on YouTube. He's really cool. But one of the channeling sessions that I heard described how what you're experiencing is actually in the past. It feels like it's in the present moment, but it's the past. And if you want to go into the present moment, you have to shut up all five senses and go inward. Close your eyes, go somewhere quiet, just go inward, and there is the present moment.
I would be inclined to agree with that. That's my experience, is your awareness, when you shut off sensory input, your awareness does shift. And I think a lot of people, especially in our culture, find distractions to keep themselves from being anything but present. Because when you're present in that space, in the silence, you have a tendency to be introspective and reflect on yourself, right? And what exactly that self is. And then, you could see all the little frayed edges of that thing and kind of, all the work that needs to be done on that. And if you actually consistently do that, you realize very quickly that, oh, I'm cracked, and then and it starts a process where you go, oh, well, this isn't probably the best thing. How do I fix this? So you start kind of working on yourself and actually putting in, and this is just my personal experience, putting in the time to do that. And it takes a bit. So, I think, a lot of people will spend probably quite a lot of their lives in therapy, as that sort of seems to be one of the new things to do. But I sort of subscribe to the way the guys used to do it a few thousand years ago, just kind of sit down, be quiet, be still, and allow nature to sort of come in and express its own wisdom on how you need to unfold. And I really do think if people do that, and this is one of the reasons, like, with David Hawkins' book, Power versus Force, if you simply do those sorts of things and you act with kindness, the whole world is a much better place, and it's impactful. That's actually when I lecture on quantum biology and I cite the studies that we did with Leela. The thing that I am inclined to leave everyone with as kind of final thoughts is that I've conclusively shown that there is an impact on what is happening materially, right? There's some sort of interaction between things at a distance, right? So it's that spooky action at a distance. We're all apparently entangled. And so when you place intention on something, albeit, negative, positive, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It has an impact. So I find it really kind of incumbent upon me to tell people, like, look, what you think, what you feel, what you focus on, all of those things propagate a wave, right? And if you propagate a wave of love and kindness, that's pretty damn easy to do. It's really inexpensive. Being kind is a very simple thing. You can push that wave out and it will impact everything everywhere. That's how the physics of it works. Is you set up a waveform, it propagates, and it propagates infinitely. And it may be weak, it may express a very infinitesimally small impact on something else, but nonetheless, it's an impact. So if your options are to have your existence based around fear, which is, in my opinion, sort of exclusive of love, then you can do that. But I would posit that eventually you'll reach a state where what you're actually going to want to do is focus more on the love to the exclusion of fear. And when you do that, things seem to function more effectively. Your bandwidth increases. Again, God, the universe, nature, it's not foolish. It doesn't give toddlers pistols. It's kind of a self-limiting function. For me, what I had alluded to a minute ago with my staff was they were asking me about, kind of assessing different technologies and making big strides in a couple of different domains that seemed very disparate. And my take is, when you're doing it for the benefit of other people and you constantly put yourself under a lot of stress, not distress, but eustress, EUSTRESS, where you believe in what you're doing and you see that there's a purpose to it, you push harder, and for anybody who doesn't realize that the intent of what you're doing makes a huge impact, read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. That should be required reading for everyone on the planet. If you think you're having a rough day, read Viktor Frankl. And it's, for those, paying attention, it's Frankl. It will set things into a relative position where you go, you know what? My day's not so bad. I think I'm going to go out and be really nice to people because I can, and his experience frames things, for me at least, because when you see that your intent really does make a lot of difference. The guys in those particular camps that he references in the book, the people who found meaning and purpose, and it didn't really matter what the meaning or purpose was, whether it was, I'm going to survive so that this never happens again, they lived, and so for me, that's an impactful thing. I want to do this stuff so that a lot of people can benefit from it, and who knows, maybe I contribute something, maybe I contribute only that I was, nice to the guy when I was getting coffee this morning. So be it. At least that's a check mark in the box. Karmically, I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Definitely revealing light in the world.